Hey guys, and welcome. Should I say welcome back, or should I say welcome to a podcast has no name? Or at least that is what we are for now. That might be a placeholder. That might be our long-term name. We're working through some branding things, due to some behind-the-scenes stuff. We will keep y'all informed on all of that, but we're still here to bring you all the best Westerosi content you can find on your YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, Amazon, your favorite places to find us. Last week I was without my friend Luke. Luke Aldridge, welcome back. How's it going?
Going well. So, for health reasons, I have decided to stop drinking, to not drink for a long time. uh, Today, I'm just drinking, instead of whiskey, I'm drinking white grape sparkling water. But that's going to be what I'm sipping on today. But I'm doing good. Excited to get into it.
I should have grabbed. I have seltzers and like non-alcoholic seltzers in my fridge, and I do love the
Right.
bubbles. They make you feel good. You get that little burp out. It's great.
Yep.
But
Nice and tasty.
without you, Luke, last week it was rough. It was rough. I missed having you on the show, man. We
It's
had,
all good.
we had recorded a great episode 6, but someone on the right side of your YouTube screen or currently speaking into a microphone may have made some egregious errors in recording where I have the video file, but it's just Luke talking, and you see me talking in the video, but there's no audio from me whatsoever. Which, who knows? Maybe some of y'all would have enjoyed that episode even more. Just get Doug to shut up.
Just Doug's. They love to hear us both.
We do want to recap one heck of a season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. This season was just incredible. We were quite blessed. We'll get deeper into all this over time. Luke, you wanna let's start firing this off with a couple of little questions. Favorite episode, and I think we're both gonna have the same favorite episode. We haven't discussed these questions too much in detail prior. We kind of discussed what questions we wanted to have, but not the answers to these questions. I'm betting we have a very similar favorite, and then we might vary on the second favorite. But go ahead, Luke. What was your favorite episode of this season?
So I'm not sure because again we haven't discussed this. I thought about this and I can't rank any episode, me personally, above episode 4. I actually love. I know.
We
I
are going to
know.
disagree then. I love it. Go ahead.
I know. I think I know what
Step
you're
on your
gonna say, but
soapbox.
for me,
So that episode was called
something
Seven.
about
Was the name of the episode?
yeah, right, right. Something about it just when as Dunk was gathering up people and kind of getting his people together and the ending. I mean, I'll talk about the ending in a bit, but of that episode, but something about it just you know I think it was great. Yeah, I don't think it was the most important or iconic episode, but just the you know he starts that episode in complete despair. Uh, he feels like he has no one on his side. He doesn't know what's happening. He's kind of deciding like first he thinks he's going to have to face off against Arion by himself. Then he kind of figures out what that trial of 7 is, and he's thinking, okay, nobody's going to fight with me. I'm going to ask. Nobody's going to stand with me. I'm just a hedge knight. I'm just a rando, and I'm not going to show up with anybody. And then they're going to kill me.
I mean,
And that's going to be worse than losing a hand or a foot.
the "we are lost" line whenever the Fossaway betrayal occurs.
I think a lot of people stood up and showed their colors in this episode. We just there's so many parts in this, and again, I'll get more into the end of it, where I just was clapping and standing up in chair and just like getting excited. Like one of my favorites is when Lionel Baratheon was knighting Raymond Fossaway. I just
The
chills
cinematography was
running up and down my
great.
spine.
Yeah.
Ooh. This the words and Dunk making that speech was great. I like seeing Raymond. That's the moment where Raymond finally stood up to his cousin. Now
Yeah.
later on, he beat him. He showed more, but that was the beginning when he was like, "Get me my stuff." And I was like, how about I don't?" Just
Yeah.
shoves them, and I was like, "Yes, yes." And let I'll get more into the final scene, but that was my favorite part, where Baylor comes out and he just. I'll get more into that because
I
we're going to
got you.
talk about
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
favorite
You
scene.
are you are
But again,
totally fine. Yeah.
I'm gonna.
We can
I
slow
think I
bleed. We
just
can
think
slow bleed this episode. That's fine. Let's.
yeah. So just to that, I think that was I just saw a lot of people kind of standing up and becoming who they're going to be at least in this season. Or you saw the beginnings of it, and you got a lot of people jumping up to help. I think that yeah, I like the part with Steely Pate. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Steely Pate is how I pronounce it. Uh, Kind of starting that. What was it? A Knights. It was like I don't know if it was a motto or saying those words, and Dunk is
Okay,
saying
Oak and
everything's
Iron guard
dead,
me
and he
well.
said
Oh, the shield. The shield. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, and
He's
he
like
said
the tree.
everything's dead, and he
The
said
elm's alive,
the
man.
tree's alive.
Those are summer leaves.
Oh, and Dunk was tearing up, and it was like almost made me tear up. I just I know again I won't get into what your favorite episode was, but I something about it that was just personally my favorite. And I'll be honest with you, my second something about episode 6. What was episode 6 called? Remind me again. Um,
I was just looking at it on my phone. I believe it was
right.
Morrow, like
I think
Morrow.
that yeah, and episode 5 is called Trial of Seven, correct?
In the name of the mother.
Okay, it wasn't. I think technically it has to be a tie between In the Name of the Mother, and surprisingly it's a tie for me because the Morrow episode 6 second time
The
around grew
Morrow
on
is
me.
the Morrow. I forgot the.
The Morrow, okay. Episode 6 first time around it was almost disappointing, but just seeing the growth in the characters and seeing the retrospective, it just something about it just and the part with the closure for Sweetfoot, something about that episode just grew on me, and it almost shot above episode
I
5.
bet that one
So
works really well
uh,
in a binge session. As an isolated
yes, and I
event,
did
I
binge
think
it the last time.
it hit me a little different. But as I said last week when I was kind of doing the show, and we had talked about this when we had recorded the episode together, that
Yeah,
it did feel like kind of like this epilogue and kind of a graduation episode where you give everybody kind of a last chance
yeah,
to do a curtain
it definitely
call,
was
like.
more than yeah. It again. I'm not gonna say. I think it probably tied for my runner up, episode 5 and 6. But something about 6 had this heart in it that to me that's very surprising. But it kind of bumped above episode 5, and episode 5 was amazing. But anyway, I'll leave it at this, and I'll leave it at that. Now,
We'll
what
get
was
more
your
into other
favorite
scenes,
and your
like
favorite?
because we have a lot to discuss on
Yeah,
like scenes and stuff. My favorite
yeah.
episode is In the Name of the Mother. I normally am not the one that cares as much for the violent scenes, the battle scenes. Like Battle of Blackwater is like a famous Game of Thrones episode everyone really loves. The highest rated episode
Hmm.
of House of the Dragon is the Red Dragon and the Gold. My favorite episode, I forget the name of it, but it's the second episode of
Hmm.
the second season. Or that was my favorite episode of the second season. My favorite episode is still Lord of the Tides because we get the Viserys throne room scene. That I think should be the highest rated
Right.
episode of that. For that scene alone, I enjoyed the character building, the
Agreed.
relationship building, the interesting dynamics and storytelling. Normally, the big violent battle episode is not the one that speaks to my soul, and it's okay. Like we're allowed to have differing opinions and things that we enjoy more or less about a show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of context here. Like I respect your opinion on this stuff a ton, and as you do for me, I believe. And clearly, we have a
Course.
difference of opinion here because I'll actually say episode 6 was my least favorite episode. I did not hate it. I did not hate it.
Yeah.
But it just didn't feel like it did anything. Like, it just felt like a graduation episode to me. There were some great scenes, some enjoyable moments. but it didn't feel like it moved the needle for me. But I think that the way they
Yeah.
structured the pacing of the episodes was perfect, because then you get this moment. Episode 5 isn't as good if you don't do episode 6 the way they did. And,
Right.
and we had discussed
It was
this
all.
really.
It was almost all action.
Yeah, we had discussed this in depth
Yeah.
before, like, I ruined everything with my technical lack of proficiency. That episode for me, though, it showed Dunk just having to go through absolutely everything, and it just gave us that vintage Game of Thrones feeling where he's conquered his antagonist. We're in the clear. Everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just for it to be ripped out, and it's a painful episode. It's not like,
Yeah.
it brings me to tears every time, but I think that there's something special about a type of media being able to move my emotions to the point of tears. My second favorite episode might
It doesn't happen often.
My second favorite episode might shock you, though.
All right, let's hear it.
My second favorite episode is The Squire, episode 3.
Okay.
And you commented on episode 4. So I'm going to... And there was one thing I would want to say about episode 4 that episode 3 shares in common with it. Episode 6 also shares this in common, and it's the director, Sarah Adina Smith. I think how well she handled this show transitioning from very easygoing and lighthearted to very intense, emotional, and just powerful. The tonal shift she was able to nail from the moment when Dunk is in the tent talking with Raymond and Egg says he's hurting her.
Yep.
From that very second, it was like we were watching a different show. It still had a lot of the things that made the show great in the first place. But does that make sense? Like, it felt like a different show tonally after that.
It does. Because you feel the
tension,
the intensity rise.
Yeah.
You're right. So from the minute Raymond says, and the youngest, or whatever he said, the youngest son, and then Egg runs in, tells Dunk they're hurting Tansel, and you feel the intensity. You have that like moment where Tansel's terrified, just Arion's just creepily standing there, and then there's that scene that you commented on that you really liked at the end, where it's like, dun dun dun, and it's shifting back and forth between Dunk and Egg.
And we've never seen...
That was a fantastic end.
We've never seen Game of Thrones shot like that.
No.
The crew that has worked on this show took a lot of chances in the way they decided to produce and run this show. And I'm really glad they did. Because it has made this show stand out.
It paid off.
In a lore series that has nothing but exceptional sort of content. It takes a lot to stand out in a Game of Thrones universe. And I think that they did a great job of this.
It does.
One of my buddies, and he does a bunch of stuff with film and stuff, commented on, has seen me talking a lot about this, and I've asked him for a lot of advice on like different sort of tech stuff for the podcast and stuff. He finally was like, you know what, I went ahead and benched it, and one of his comments was that Sarah Adina Smith, he is familiar with her from other stuff. He's like, glad that she's getting this opportunity, another opportunity, and that she's obviously still really, really, really good at this. And yeah, from the moment that scene where Arion is there, the tone is just completely different. And we knew that was going to be... I thought that was going to be a moment handled earlier in the show. The way they decided to pace things in this show was not the way I would have done it, to be honest. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, after reading this book, how would I have done this show? It would have probably looked different. But I'm going to go and say my version would have probably been worse. This was great. We were spoiled rotten by this. Absolutely fantastic.
You mind if I cut in? You were talking about the tonal shift and Sarah Dina Smith bringing in directors that brought new cinematography and things like that to the Game of Thrones universe that we haven't seen. Kind of reminds me of Tony Gilroy, not style wise, but Tony Gilroy coming into Star Wars and starting with Rogue One, but of course going to Andor, uh, he brought something we haven't seen to Star Wars. Uh, a little bit of kind of a rough around the edges, a little darkness, and it he's one of the most celebrated of the Disney era Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's one of the most celebrated out of that whole crew. And I kind of see similarities there. Again, not
Yeah.
in
I
the specific
100%
style,
see that.
but just bringing something new to the table. And there's been new things brought to the table that aren't good in Game of Thrones and Star Wars, but this one worked out.
So like
They took the chance in it.
so you're talking about Tony Gilroy absolutely in the positive. Andor is one of my favorite projects ever. It reminds me, I always say that it's kind of like it has the Game of Thrones level of like gray characters, intrigue, spies, double talking. Like there's a lot going on in Andor. Andor's dialogue is second to none. It's fantastic. I'm going to talk about like so having been someone that read all the Harry Potter books growing up as a kid, when I went to go see, I stand by the Half-Blood Prince as my least favorite of the films. And it's not because it's a bad film, because it's just because it tonally doesn't match the book. If you've read that book is dark and uncomfortable, and you feel tension the whole way. They leaned in really heavy to the like romantic arc of some of the characters, and it almost made it like this romantic comedy. I'm like, that's not what Half-Blood Prince is. Half-Blood Prince is a little bit like scary and uncomfortable, and they didn't convey that at all in the film. This, on the other hand,
Was that the one?
Well,
sorry,
without
was that the one
spoilers.
with, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're
sorry.
good. No. I mean, at this
was-
point, if you haven't seen the six Harry Potter, it's been a decade.
Was that the one with Helena Bonham Carter when she? Was that the one where she?
It's not the one.
Attacked someone.
It's not the one where she eliminated a close friend of Harry's. It is another close friend of Harry's is killed by a professor of his.
That's right.
Snape kills Dumbledore, people. You heard it here first. Breaking news.
That was okay. Okay.
But I just
sometimes in Harry Potter I run them together. But back to what
before
you're
we
saying.
get too far on this tangent, and this is what I really have appreciated was how well the tone was handled for this show. It's because honestly, in reading that book, things are going kind of fine for Dunk. He's a little nervous and anxious for this tournament, and there's a lot of pressure on him, which you do kind of feel that in the early episodes. But it's not like his like actual life is on the line right away per se. But then the moment we get to the high intensity points, not only is his life in danger, it's in immediate danger, and you just feel that tension. And I can't put my finger on exactly how you convey that, but it was conveyed.
Yeah.
In a way that...
yeah.
So our next note, we've actually kind of hit on a lot already, but we can continue to hit on a little bit more music, lighting, tone overall. Like, I feel like we kind of went into that tangent just now, just talking about these last two episodes. But if you've got more to add or specific moments you want to bring up, I've got a couple as well. But Luke, take the floor for a second.
We're talking about... Sure. So if we're talking about our favorite scenes, you want to get into that?
Oh, you're right. I skipped a part. Yeah. Go with favorite scenes. Favorite scenes. My bad.
So, and that's why I kind of was vague on episode 4, but I think it's tough, and I almost kind of rope the dubbing of Raymond in with this scene because it happened right before. But I mean the part when Baylor comes out of those gates and takes off that helmet and says, "I will fight with Sir Duncan."
I'll take Sir Duncan's
brother,
side.
Gets angry with him, and he said, "Let the gods decide." And it was just I've stood up. I've watched that 3 times. Stood up and clapped every time. Different times of day, different states of mind. Just couldn't not stand up, And it was, it hit so hard. I mean, you just don't have many moments like that. And even the iconic moments from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, a lot of those are negative moments when and this was one moment where it's like, yes, it's almost It almost had the
It had me standing up and screaming in my living room while my roommate's like on her phone looking at
yeah.
TikToks. Like, what is wrong with him? Like,
Yeah, the dubbing kind of was getting me emotional, and then that went into it, and it was that was probably, I mean, not probably, that was my favorite scene. I don't know if I have a runner up. I guess it would be the dubbing, but that's one big scene.
yeah,
I did. I still think it was. I will mention a scene that I kind of thought was speaks to Dunk's honor that was not in the books. The part with Plumber.
oh, as soon as you
Uh,
said was not in the books, I was like, I think I know what he's about to say.
and this was not a big exciting moment. It took a lot of integrity for Dunk to refuse Plumber there because he didn't know what was going to happen in this tourney. He could have been knocked off his horse and had everything taken from him and ransom, and just turned into a peasant. But he had a chance there to collect a nice horse and a nice set of armor and get a leg up easy way. And he had it right in front of him, and he's like, I mean, if I was in that situation, I don't know if I would have said no. I mean, but he said the answer's no. And then he sees. I don't know if that's what you thought I was going to talk about, but it was not an iconic moment. It impressed me. It was that's just the scene I like because I don't
It
really
hits
have
more
a
on the
runner-up. There's so
substance
many great.
over flash. The who you are is more important than all the other. So a scene that the way you just described that reminds me of and this one was straight from the book. Him getting the armor from Steely Pate. And he's like, I won't get you some flashy armor with some cool sigil or anything. He's like, I'm going to get you good steel that'll keep your head on. And it's very much a substance over flash. It's
Yeah.
character over. And this is the question of whether Sir Duncan was truly knighted or not. But he exemplifies what a knight is to be. He defends the innocent. And then we can dovetail right into my actual favorite scene, which this is my favorite scene because of what it means to your favorite scene, if that makes sense. When he's speaking to Baelor, right after Egg had met him in the dungeon, and he said, "What would you have done?" He was like, "I might have done it too, but I'm a prince of the realm." And Dunk says to him, "Don't all knights take the same vows?" I think that hit the note for Baelor, and that's the reason Baelor stands up in that last scene. That's the reason that he says, "I will take Sir Duncan's side." He says this. He says that Dunk, all he did was defend the innocent as every knight is supposed to. Those two scenes work so well together. Simply a masterclass in television production. Obviously, the story was a good story. They were working with good source material.
Yeah.
But the way they chose to handle it was absolutely flawless. They picked the right spots to be different, and they picked the right spots not to alter at all.
Right. I have not heard any serious gripes, but we'll get into that too.
I've seen some trolls on Facebook, but usually in the comments, people are like, "Whatever, man. I loved it. This was awesome."
Yeah. I mean, again. We'll see if we get into that at all, but it might be some nitpicking. But I just as far as I don't think like House of the Dragon. As much as I love it, even the first season was great, but I think there was still more complaints about it than
there
was by far more complaints.
And I think
about
the
it than
complaints are
first
justified.
season.
I still enjoy House of the Dragon, but I do think that the complaints are legitimate. There's a Savage Books Literary I've mentioned on this channel before. And on his channel, he said, my problem with House of the Dragon is not that it's bad. It's that it's boring.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because House of the Dragon really did just try to shoot itself like Game of Thrones the sequel. Even though it's a prequel, like, it really did just try to follow the exact same formula. At least the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is saying, we're in Westeros, we're in this world, but this is a different product. We should treat it like a different product. And I've been on the bandwagon saying it was very lazy for House of the Dragon to use the same music to start the show. That alone showed
Yeah.
you that they were not trying to make a change. Every intro for this show has been different and varied, and I just was not expecting this sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings us into our next topic. We're talking about the music, the
Yeah.
lighting, all that.
Oh my goodness! I've
Um,
forgotten the composer's name again. Let's see if I can look it up without blowing up my computer. If I get all glitchy here for a second, I do apologize.
you're fine.
But I want to look up his name because he deserves some flowers.
Yeah. Yeah, the music had a lot of variation.
Dan Romer.
It wasn't all violins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Killed it.
Yeah, and you want to talk about the
Um,
thing that contributed to the tonal shift? Went from like Lon Lon Ranch
Yeah.
music from The Legend of Zelda to this deep opera when Egg's identity is revealed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it honestly felt like something out of Star Wars. The music did. Like, the whole space opera sort of thing. Like,
Yeah, it did.
It felt
And you did-
so
Yeah,
distant
that was
from
the only
anything I've
part.
seen in Game of Thrones. Or heard in Game of Thrones, I should say.
It was very. It was. I didn't think about that. It did kind of. It's funny because you talk about that scene, kind of having a Star Wars sound to it. One scene I liked in the Sweetfoot closure scene. Actually, it wasn't the Sweetfoot. It was right after that. It was the end when they were walking away and Sir Arlen's ghost or whatever starts walking the other direction. That gave me Hobbit vibes.
Oh, yeah, I can see that for
Hobbit
sure.
actually more fellowship vibe, more fellowship vibes, like almost Sam and Frodo
Yeah.
and the other hobbits kind of walking through the Shire.
Yeah.
And
It's the best of
it's very
Shires, it's the worst of
comforting.
Shires.
Very
Yeah, I could
comforting
definitely get
and-
those vibes. 100%.
Yeah,
With the graphic, a Knight of
That's
the Nine
another
Kingdoms
scene I
going
love.
across the thing. Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon would never make
Yeah.
those kind of like quirky jokes in their final episode. Era Parker and
no,
them.
the best they could do was the Frappuccino cup.
Oh no. They had a picture of I believe it was the actor Daniel Ings who plays Lionel Baratheon, or it might not have been him. It might have been another actor sitting there with a cup of coffee, clearly behind the scenes, like not like in a shot and whatnot. And it said, "Embracing my inner Daenerys."
She is never gonna live that down for her whole life. Every set she's on. Remember the coffee cup?
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to mention that I love the little whistling scenes. The very
That's the
whimsical,
long,
like,
long range
the
vibes I'm
breakfast
talking
sandwich
about.
scene.
Yeah. Because they played that at the end of the first episode,
true,
then they
true.
played during the breakfast sandwich. That's the long, long. I know it's not a Pona song. Please do not flame me in the comments. I am very familiar with up, left, right on my C-pad controller. Do not educate me, witch. I was there when that magic was written.
Now we're talking about Narnia.
Yeah, exactly.
We're bringing in all the franchises.
Yeah, no, no.
Star Wars,
But
Narnia.
this is the episode we should do more of these comps, so it's fine. Like,
Yeah, no, people love it, man. But yeah, any other? I'm kind of blanket on a lot of the music. It was great, but sometimes it's hard. Me personally, it's hard for me to say, I remember this music and this music. I
sometimes
kind of
the
ran
best
out,
thing
but
about
you have
music
any
is
other
it's
music.
not overstated. It blends the scene.
Right.
You don't. When it's done well, you don't even notice it's being done. If that makes sense.
True. Yeah, I mean,
Right. It just
Yep,
feels so
I agree.
natural
I-
in every scene.
yeah.
I mean,
The music behind my favorite scene was great.
obviously this wasn't like some big crazy production. All of this entire season occurs at Ashford Meadow. Like, this isn't some big. So overall, like, there's not a lot of like crazy cinematography going on. It's just very well executed on every sort of thing. Let's push forward a little
Agree.
bit. Me and him had talked about kind of
Sure.
like favorite characters and stuff, but it'd be very easy to say Dunk. It would be very easy to say Egg. So we really want to. We will talk about Dunk and Egg because both characters, both actors, phenomenal. But we do need to give a little light to some other characters. Who was your favorite side
Of
character?
course. I still haven't come to a decision, but I'll talk
Gun
about
to
a
your head
few.
right now.
I suppose.
I'm
I know.
debating between two, but I think I know my answer.
You know it. It's hard to beat Daniel Ings, Lionel Baratheon. He's such a unique character, and you know, I think we've talked about this before, but he's almost a way. He's almost a mix between Tyrion, Oberyn Martell, and Robert Baratheon. He has that. He has the jovial, you know, he has kind of the jovial nature of Robert Baratheon. He has the fun, lighthearted, uh, anything goes. Like I'm just here for a good time. He has that vibe that Tyrion has, and then he has kind of the sexual ambiguity of Oberyn Martell. And that I don't know if he's technically my favorite character, but it's hard to he's the one that pops in my mind. If you're not talking about Duncan Egg, uh, another one, honestly, Raymond Fossaway, just just a good friend, and you don't he
Bros,
again he's
bro. A
bringing back
bros,
Samuel
bro.
Tarly. Yeah, he's bringing back Samuel Tarly vibes. Just you don't see a lot of those people. There's a lot of scheming in Game of
He's getting
Thrones,
the
and
Podrick Payne
there's
comps on social media. Have you seen this?
I see that too. Yeah, he doesn't have to. He may not be the most important lord at the thing, but he or at the attorney, but he didn't have to do any of that. He didn't have to, like you said, be a bro. I saw a lot of memes and a lot of things like, "You hungry?
Yeah.
You hungry?"
You want some
Or
cider?
like offered him food and want some cider. We brew it ourselves, and
Yeah.
he's gossiping away. Like,
Get
did you hear about this?
get you a friend like
He's
Raymond Fossaway, man. If you don't already have one,
yeah.
you get you a friend like Raymond Fossaway.
Now, before you tell your favorite characters, I'm going to mention one character that I had talked about. I had mentioned we were going to talk about character development and Prince Mirkar.
Ooh,
Like
good answer.
it
Good
was,
answer.
and that's
I hadn't even considered that, but
this
great answer
is
to this question.
so he is one of the reasons that I decided that I loved episode 6. Uh, he starts off and he's just irritable and angry. He seems he's not Arion, but he just seems like a frustrated, great character, and it's hard when you're standing up beside, and that's the whole point of his characters. He's right beside Baylor Breakspear, and Baylor Breakspear is this perfect knight, and perfect chivalry, and always knows what to say. And Mirkar is like rolling his eyes every time someone, "Thank you, my lord. You're so gracious." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, we get it." But at the end, you can tell he has some serious introspection. I mean, someone like that, if you saw him at the beginning, you would never expect him to say, "Will you take him? Will you take my prince son?" And of course, at the beginning, he was saying, "You're going to come to my castle. You're going to serve under me. You're going to train yourself." But even that, you would not expect that from him in the first episode. But you could tell he's torn to pieces about killing his brother. He's not a bad guy. He's just he you could just tell he's fighting with himself, and you don't see that sometimes. Back to the schemers in Game of Thrones, everything's a calculation. With him, I don't think he's a schemer. I think he's a legitimate character. I mean, a little like he's going through real emotions, and just the different, when he's talking about I'm sending Arion to the east. That's a humble decision. That's embarrassing. You're having to send your prince son out somewhere because he's a bad person, and I think a lot of people in the at the tourney realize that. Like ultimately, this is not Mirkar's fault. This is not Dunk's fault. This is Arion's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So I think making these decisions about his kids, I just like I said, I was impressed by the character development by the end, and I know more about him in the future, but I'm not going to get into spoilers. So that's
Easy
kind of
killer.
yep. That's about all I have to say as far as
Yeah,
favorite characters. Of course, it goes without saying Dunk and Egg, but I'll let you kind of
yeah.
get into some of your favorites. I'm sure
I'm
some of them are the
I'm
same.
gonna hit on a lot of the same notes you did. So in particular, Lionel Baratheon, because we get so little of him in the books, what you get in the first book is
Hmm.
Dunk watches him joust and is like, "Dang, I do not want to go against that guy." The Laughing Storm, as he's called, because
Yeah.
in battle he laughs as he is striking his opponents off of their horse. He definitely they brought that character to life in such a phenomenal way. I'm curious. So Daniel Ings is gonna act, or no, not Daniel Ings. I'm thinking of Bertie Harvel's actually gonna be playing in something else. Sorry, I got some actors confused there for a second. They brought that character to life in such a magnificent way that it went from a character that was interesting but not deep in the books to simply
Yeah.
stealing the show on
He
the
stole the
television
show.
show. And great,
Oh
great
yeah.
writing, great performance. They made it to where when he shows up at the trial of seven, that moment has weight to it. And you understand. They developed that
Cool.
character to where that moment made sense. It was supposed to happen that way. Phenomenal
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
So you compared him to three characters. I actually am going to compare him to three characters too. Robert Baratheon, Stannis
Sure.
Baratheon, and Renly Baratheon. Robert, in that he is a warrior. He is here like with everything he has. Stannis, because of his intensity,
Hmm.
like with what he does it with intensity, and he also threatens to burn Dunk, so that checks the Stannis box. And then of course Renly, because this man loves to get down at a party, and we could discuss the potential sexual desires
Sexual ambiguity.
of.
Yeah.
Oh man, we didn't even hit on this during the tone and the music. The soft jazz playing when he greets Dunk underneath the tree. Just completely, again, so far from Game of Thrones content. We're on the characters thing, so I won't go too much further into that. But that was a phenomenal scene. And he even tells the Maester that an itchy asshole is beyond your abilities. I
That
mean,
was the best. That line
oh,
cracked me up.
chef's
But I mean,
kiss.
we didn't even talk
He's a
about.
terrible
We were
Maester.
talking about favorite scenes. Yeah, yeah, he's terrible. But
It's fine. It's fine.
we were talking about favorite scenes and his like. I mean, you have the party scene at the beginning.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Just you don't see that kind of dancing. You don't see anything like that in Game of Thrones. You start with that, and then there's the little
How it
limerick
started,
or
how's it
whatever.
going?
It was a limerick. This what's that?
How it started versus how it's going.
Yeah. Then there was the thing about was it Alice?
Alice
Uh,
with three fingers.
yeah, yeah. So there was that, and then I mean, but it really capped off with it really capped off with the dubbing like that just
Yeah.
chills down my spine. It
When
and
he
of
locks
course
in, when it's game on, I do want to discuss a couple other characters as well. He's a character that they're actually in the background
yeah.
doing Alice with three fingers. That's fantastic, great timing. Raymond Fossaway was a character I loved in the books. This actor
Oh,
did not match my ideal description of him, but he matched the energy of someone that legitimately met Dunk, liked Dunk, stood up and took care of Dunk. And Dunk needed a friend from one of
yeah.
these houses because the Fossaways are not a major house by any stretch of the imagination, but they are way higher than Sir Duncan the Tall station. And he stood on
Yeah.
business for him. And in the Fossaway betrayal moment where he stands up to defend against his cousin, similarly to the way Baelor stood up,
Hmm.
he was a character I knew I was going to like just from the books. He was a character I was excited to see on the screen, so I'm not surprised that I loved him. That one was like to be
Yeah.
expected. The Lionel one took me off guard. And you hit another character that I did not plan on mentioning just now. But Maykar, Miakar, my car, your car, whatever we're calling him
Yeah.
now. the acting job that was done with a character that kind of feels a little standoffish in the books and is a bit in the show too. He's definitely a cranky old man. It was such a phenomenal performance to go from just being this irritable guy to this kind of man that's a little bit broken by everything that just happened. It's an embarrassment to him and his family.
Yeah.
But then he had the humility to offer Dunk this position, which is a very difficult thing for strong men. And even the scene when Egg's temptation to kill Arian, he doesn't yell at him, he doesn't scold him, he just goes over and gently places a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes silence can speak so loud.
Yeah.
And I felt in that scene, the silence was louder than any dialogue could have been. And I think this is where the showrunners have done a good job of knowing when to show discretion. Like I said, the scenes in episode 6 were great. I just didn't think that any plot developed in that episode. That was my only gripe against it.
I agree.
The scenes were good. The individual scenes were good scenes. I just think that some of them didn't really accomplish much.
Yeah. That put me.
I'm okay with the structure of it. I'm okay with the structure of it. I think they had to structure it this way for us to get that episode 5 moment, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
So please do not like.
Well, I think
we're splitting hairs. We're like, because it was so good that we have to try really hard to nitpick. But I want us to be objective, and nitpicking has to be part of that.
Yeah. If your question had been, what do you think the most important or iconic episode, then I'd have to rethink. Then I'd have to go to probably episode 5. But
it's the story arc. It's the story climax. It's where the
For me it's those scenes, and that's a great scene. The one where Dunk wants to kill Arion. He puts his hand on his shoulder. You hear the knife just clatter to the floor.
You said Dunk,
and it's almost like the whole. Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
That's why. So the whole family, you almost feel like the whole family, or most of them, other than Arion, because he's beatened up. Arion's in his own thing. He's passed out, but the whole family almost realizes that Egg needs something. Something has to change, because in the span of a few minutes, Darren the Drunken, Mirkar, and Egg all kind of have this, because remember Darren also was like, please take my brother on, and he does the best he can with his character, with his level of integrity or lack of it. He wants the best for his brother, but he knows he can't give it to him, so he guilt trips. He knows that the best he can do is guilt trip Dunk into taking him as a squire. Because what does he say? Oh, there's plenty of time. We'll make a man of him.
Yeah.
He
talks about how Arian used to be a good kid, and this is what came of him. And
level of depth. Sam Spruill. Back to one side note. On Mirkar, I think Sam Spruill, that depth was not there.
I agree.
Not quite there in the books. I think he brought a depth that just I was not expecting, and that's an Oscar. That scene where he's tearing up and
television. It's an Emmy. It's an Emmy, not an Oscar.
You're right. Yeah, my bad. I'm not a awards expert.
Hashtag Emmy for Egg. Emmy for Egg. Hashtag Emmy for Egg.
Yeah, Emmy for Mirkar.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying that scene to me was just very emotionally charged. But I'll quit gushing about Mirkar.
Right.
But anyways,
so one of the next notes is faithfulness to the novella. I think we've kind of covered that topic, and we are already getting a little long for time. I did want to give us just each kind of like a little brief sort of like monologue window to just kind of takeaways from the show's thoughts, feelings, is just kind of like as we close this chapter of our podcast and we move forward into other topics and stuff, just kind of our send-off to the first season of the Tales of Dunk and Egg, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Luke, would you like to lead us off?
Yeah, you're right. We need closure like Sweetfoot.
Ah, my
So
beautiful Sweetfoot.
that was a great scene. She's a fine animal.
Yeah.
So I've thought a lot about this. I know I've mentioned this, and I think I mentioned it in episode 1 or 2, but I there's just a hopefulness in this prequel. There's a hopefulness that you don't have in Game of Thrones, and some people don't need that. Some people just love that they just want to see violence, and I love Game of Thrones, love House of the Dragon, but me personally, I, sometimes I need something to inspire me. I need a story, that's a little more cut and dry, uh, character development, and this kind of spoke to me. You know, the last few seasons of Game of Thrones, there was no tearing up for me, and we're kind of on the edge of our seat, like, okay, what are they going to do next? Something about this just brought a hopefulness, and it just drastically exceeded my expectations. My expectations coming into this, okay, well, there's another prequel. It's going to be a silly little. I mean, I my expectations were low. I actually thought it was going to be like TV level. I thought it was going to be a little cheesy, and it was like, oh, it's just going to be fun. There's not going to be much weight to it, and I was dead wrong. It blew me out of the water, and I back to what I was saying with Star Wars, like when coming with Rogue One and with Andor, Andor especially, like the fandom needed this. We needed a after the controversy over season 2 of House of the Dragon, it things were at a low point, and I think the fandom needed this. We don't know how the second season is going to go, but I think everybody's pretty excited, pretty hopeful, and I think it renewed interest. And I think a lot of people who aren't Game of Thrones fans can just, from a standpoint of practicality of watching something that's the whole thing's 3 hours, not hours and hours and hours. I think I think it'll bring a lot of new fans to the world. So that's kind of my general thoughts on it. I mean, I'm extremely hopeful and excited about season 2, and I think we're going to get it a lot quicker. And it just goes to show you don't need an enormous budget. They did this with a much lower budget than House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones to have a great show. So that's kind of my general thoughts. What about you, Doug?
You hit a lot of the notes that I'm about to hit here, and I apologize to the audience at home if I am mostly repeating a lot of what my friend Luke here has just said.
All good.
I had certain expectations for this show. I thought it would be fun. I thought it would be interesting. I didn't think it was going to be a massive needle mover. I didn't think it was just going to be some absolute smash hit. I thought it was going to be a fun story that we would enjoy and maybe rewatch every now and then as kind of a change of pace from the heaviness of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. What I did not expect was this to be maybe the single greatest book to television adaptation I have ever seen in my entire life. And I don't use that lightly. I've been a nerd. We've talked about Harry Potter, Star Wars. We've mentioned Narnia, Lord of the Rings. I don't. Game of Thrones is definitely, of all the IPs, the one I've gotten the most invested in and the one I know the most about. So it's not unreasonable that I would get addicted to this. But I've been showing it to my other friends. People that had a bad taste in their mouth from Season 8 Game of Thrones, a bad taste in their mouth from Season 2 House of the Dragon. And they're all blown away. All my coworkers are telling other coworkers, like, hey, if you've never done anything in Westeros, do this. If you're only going to do one thing, let this dip your toes into Westeros with this. The casting, phenomenal. The ability to change tone mid-season with such a flawless execution. Owen Harris and Sarah Adina Smith, phenomenal directors. Ira Parker, phenomenal showrunner. This has blown me away. This one of the YouTube channels I follow. Butch and Beard, I believe is how it's pronounced. They're British, so I could be mispronouncing it. Apologize if I am. One of the host is a show watcher only. The co-host is the book reader. And the co-host on that show has gone on record saying that this is one of the few times he's ever felt like the television adaptation was even better than the source material, because the source material was written 20 years ago before George knew what the Blackfire Rebellion was and all this other stuff. It's a much deeper IP now, and there's a lot more going on. And they added some of that stuff to the show that George would have added had they been releasing the show now, or had he been releasing the book now.
Yeah.
Characters like the Laughing Storm being so much bigger on the screen, characters like Miyakar. The fact that they broke away from the Game of Thrones model, that they recognized that the material they were working with was not like that they needed to veer and do it differently. I'm blown away. I'm so glad that we have been doing this show, because it's given me an excuse to just watch these episodes over and over again, saying that I'm researching and really I'm just sitting there with popcorn like I have to watch it again. This is so good.
Yeah.
We could go on and on.
Yeah.
I think we might do a little Sworn Sword preview. We're running a little long, but maybe we can do it real quickly.
I think we should.
So this is officially
it's a recap.
This is officially the spoiler warning, you guys. And thank you so much for if you're in this episode with us. I'm guessing you've probably watched the other episodes with us. I'm sorry about last week's episode, y'all. I can't do it without Luke. I got to have my guy here to help carry the weight of this show with me.
Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you back. But this is your spoiler warning. Please like, please subscribe, and please tune in next week. You're going to get a little Blackfire Rebellion action. We will be cognitive of spoilers that could affect A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We will probably have a second part of it that's more spoiler-centric. But the Blackfire Rebellion is happening about 15 years before these events, though I think they've kind of time-shifted some stuff, so the years for the TV show might not be exactly corresponding to the years of the book. We'll get into that topic more, but this is your spoiler warning. Luke, you got some stuff you're excited about for Season 2? Let's try to keep it brief.
All right. So, they've been warned. This is going to be an even more insular story, in my opinion. You're not going to see... It is a very... Now, you'll hear references, and I don't know... I am willing to bet, even though it's not going to be Henry Cavill...
Not with that attitude.
Some cool... Yeah, I know. I wish, but I think we're going to get some good flashbacks. And in the book, we get a lot of mentions of big characters like Bloodraven, Daemon Blackfire, King Aerys. I wish it does kind of stink that we didn't see King Daeron, but we didn't see him in the book either. I'm curious. It's just my personal
I like that it's a show
but,
that the king is not the most important character.
I know. No, you're completely right. It's just my selfish need to see this guy on screen. But as far as Sworn Sword goes, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna see some flashbacks, but it's very insular. It's a little group of people, and they might expand it a little bit. But if you thought that this tourney was insular, a lot of people from this tourney,
we won't have a huge cast for Season 2.
No, a lot of people from this tourney are still connected to characters we see down the road. As far as there are some, and I don't want to get too deep in the lore, but there are some characters that are grandparents and such of future characters in Game of Thrones in the Sworn Sword. But it's just a very small story. It's almost I don't know. It's going to be cool, and I'm curious to see the Red Widow. I'm curious to see Lucas Longinch. I'm ready to see, I can't remember his name, the Septon. The Septon is going to, I think he's going to, and I'm getting this from another channel, but they were saying he could play the role of Raymond, like kind of the role Raymond played.
Oh, you're saying, yeah, the buddy.
Friend. Yeah, the buddy, the gossiping buddy, the well-meaning gossiping buddy. But it's not way down the road. It's not like Dunk's going to be 40 years old and Egg's going to be 20. But they've learned a few things, and there is some adventures that happen in between. They go to Dorne, from what I remember.
So what I'm hearing is that they're
so
actually going to
I'm
start the
curious-
season in Dorne. So I think they're actually going to show that on film, even though it's only referenced in the book. So
Yeah.
I think we'll get a little bit more from the show than the book, like we did in the first season.
Yeah. So I don't know I don't think we know the exact time. It could be a year, could be 6 months, could be 2 or 3 years. I don't think it's more than 2 years though.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, because from what I remember, they're very similar age. But here's the thing: we're introduced to these characters in the first season. Now they've had a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
Dunk's had a little more combat experience. He's had a little more experience with lords and people. So even if they're only a year older or something, they're going to be a little more mature in some ways. But Dunk's still going to be a kid. But I am extremely excited for Eustace Osgrey. I don't know who's playing him. Do you? Have they said?
I have not looked into that. I'm looking forward to the dynamic of Egg.
Venice the Brown?
Of Egg seeing
Go
a
ahead.
Blackfire supporter and referring to them as, the rebels and the traitors and whatnot, and simply being responded to.
He's very sensitive.
If Daemon had won this war, then wouldn't the Targaryens be the traitors? Wouldn't they be the rebels, and wouldn't we be the crown? Because
Yeah.
an individual lord follows a cause he believes in, that doesn't make him disloyal or anything. He's being loyal to the cause he believes in. And Egg getting challenged in that, I think, is part of what makes Egg into the character that he develops into later in his story, that we are still sort of pulling apart.
Yeah. I'll say one thing. If it's anything like the books, this is where it's not when he complains about salt beef that his princely nature comes out. It's when people talk about his father and when people talk about the Blackfire Rebellion.
Yeah.
He gets very sensitive, and you see the prince come out. He's very sensitive about that, and it's going to be a lot of Dunk shutting him up.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too into it because there's so much, and
we
we're
got
gonna talk
some
about the
time. We got some
Blackfire
time.
Rebellion, and
Yeah. And we will do a deep
but
dive on the Sworn
as you
Sword
can
at some
tell,
point.
Yeah, I am chomping at the bit, as you can tell, and there's so much so much stuff I could talk about, but yeah, that's I'll how dare me, but I think I'd better stop there. I one last thing. I'm excited about the casting of the Red Widow too. It's gonna have to be a pretty strong character.
Yeah, I trust HBO's casting
and
department.
Dennis
They
the
have
Brown.
not led us astray yet.
Yeah. Venice the Brown's going to be fantastic. I hope they find a grumpy, nasty old guy.
All right. Well,
Because that's who Venice the Brown is.
Well, guys, your host is
I'm gonna leave it there.
going to get
My end.
next to no sleep tonight trying to edit. Maybe I get a logo and an intro for us. If not, you might just have us start talking at the beginning of this. We will be working through the rebranding. Our socials are probably going to stay the same for like another week or two, but we will be massaging that out. It's just... It's going to be a lot of legwork for me, and it's right in the middle of kind of a chaotic sort of set of days for me in my professional life outside of the podcast. So if this had all been going on another week, I might be able to turn it over a little quicker. But I'm regrettably stuck with this 24-hour structure to my day. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Luke, thank you for being back. The show cannot go on without you. Please please subscribe. We're looking forward to some Blackfire Rebellion stuff. We will discuss next week our topics for April. So this is your last chance in the comments. If there's something you really want to see in the month of April, get it in there. Because we're going to hit April. We'll hit May. And after that, it's going to be Hot D Season 3. So get in the topics you really want to hear about.
What month?
June.
You remember what month that's supposed to come out?
June.
June. Okay. Coming up.
All right. Thank you guys again. Peace out.